Thank you very, very much for that introduction. I'm sorry that I cannot speak to all of you in Italian, but I will try to speak slowly and clearly so that I can be well understood. Okay, so the topic of my presentation is on oil, health, and development. And the purpose of this presentation is really to try to frame the big picture of what does this mean in terms of human development. There are three main areas that I will cover. One is to talk about why health. Why is it that health is so central to the debate and to the discussion on oil and human development? What are some of the health impacts that are associated with oil and gas extraction, and in particular with the upstream process, which is the process that is relevant here? And then finishing with a discussion on some examples of good practice and how is it that you can identify what those health issues will be and how you can manage them. So to start on the importance and the value of health. This is a picture of my son. His name is Ethan, and he's 5 years old. The message here is that health matters for all of us. It's very easy to relate to health. If my son is ill, I'm very well aware of it. And the loss of health can be catastrophic to families and to individuals. Health is a common argument that we use to resist change, to resist development projects, and I can give an example from the mobile phone towers and how often people are worried about the effects on their health. And that is a primary justification for resisting an introduction or an installation of a mobile phone towers. But we also measure development progress in terms of health. Are we living longer? Are we having a better quality of life? So health is very central to all of us. But health is also essential for economic growth and for development. My son will become the future worker. If he's ill, he will not be able to attain a level of education where he'll acquire the necessary technical skills to be employed in the market. So without health, we don't have a vibrant and a competitive labor pool. And this combined with, if we have a heavy burden of disease in a given population, means that we can have very high costs of doing business. The cost of insurance, the cost of families, but it can make for a less attractive investment climate. And we've seen this in other countries where if you have very high levels of disease in your worker population, it's not very attractive for business to come in because it's so expensive. So having a healthy basis of your population is essential for economic development. Health is also important for industry, and I'm sorry here there was a part of this there. That was health is essential for the social license to operate, for the extent to which the community will accept having a particular investment in their area. It's a big part of the cost of doing business. For compensation for environmental pollution often results in health damages. It can affect how the community is linked with that project and their perceptions and their expectations of the business. So health is very important as well for business and for industry. So it's important for all. So now I want to give a bit of an overview of what are the health issues that are typically associated with oil and gas, and again with this particular part of oil and gas, with the upstream extraction. And just as an introduction, many of you may be well aware of this, but what are some of the activities associated with the mining, with the drilling for the oil, and what are some of the byproducts of that? So we generate waste and byproducts in muds and cuttings. There can be chemical waste from the drilling and from the separation. There can be an emission of gas or a need to deal with the gas, which is either needs to be re-injected or vented or flaring. We can mobilize heavy metals during the process of drilling that are present in the soil. And of course, eventually we can have the possibility for spills, fires, and accidents. This type of drilling it requires highly skilled workers, very high levels of technology, but it also requires extensive infrastructure in order to support it, for power, for water, and for transportation. This is just to give an example of the extent of the footprint of some of the onshore oil and gas facilities. And this one here, you can just look out the window. You're well aware of the size of the facility required to undertake this activity. But then you have other related facilities. You can have construction of pipelines. You can have transport via road. On our way here, we counted 10 very large gas tankers on the small roads going. So you have a need for a transportation infrastructure, a power infrastructure. So this is just to say that the overall footprint of the oil and gas extraction, it's not limited to the well. It's quite big. Associated with that, there can be a number of direct impacts, and these are often associated with environmental and physical factors related to air emissions, to air pollution, and I won't go too much into this because it was pretty well addressed in the previous presentation. But we can get pollution through air, through water, through soil. We can also have vibration and noise pollution through some of the seismic testing or the drilling. We can end up with changes in the environmental quality as a result of degradation, or if you're clearing an area to construct the facility, you can have damage to important ecosystems, loss of biodiversity. All of these have direct implications for human health and well-being. We also have some direct health and safety concerns. We operate complex equipment and machinery. There can be lots of vehicular traffic, particularly during the transport of the oil, but as well as during the transport of the equipment needed to construct the facilities. There can be risks of fires, explosions. There can be exposure to hazardous substances, chemicals, heavy metals. For those that are working in the industry, there can be exposure to thermal temperature, to heat, and the exposure to UV radiation. Now, this is an issue that we've seen quite frequently on the platforms in Russia, on the oil platforms that are out in the sea, that the UV is a particularly big problem there, as well as ergonomic injuries. And I wanted just to highlight that many of these issues are not only risks for the workers, they're also issues that affect the communities that are living in the area where these activities are taking place. But then we also have a whole range of other factors that are more social and institutional factors. And these factors can be direct or indirect. They can be positive or negative. And the first one is very much, I think, a part of the debate that's going on here right now around the expectations. What will this mean? The discussion around the royalties and how will the royalties be managed? In some instances, yes, it will bring new employment opportunities for the community, new livelihood opportunities. But in some instances, it doesn't, because the oil industry at this level doesn't have that much employment. And that can result in stress, anxiety, and social tensions within the communities. We also have seen that given the time period over which the oil is extracted, in this instance it's projected to be 40 years, within that time period there can be a rapid change in the level of development. And that can result in significant changes in individual lifestyles and in livelihoods. We also can see changes in the local infrastructure. And again, this can be positive or negative. Where the positive happens, you see the parallel investment in the roads, in the schools, in the health systems to keep pace with the changing demographics. In other instances, if it isn't done at the same time, you can end up with a health issue, and I'll provide an example of that. So just to give you an idea of how is it that this concept of rapid development, how can it lead to specific health outcomes? Well, say I have improved my income situation, I have a better job as a result of this project coming in, I have more money, I have improved access to motorized transport. I buy a faster car because I like fast cars. But it means that maybe there's more risk now for me. I'm driving around. I could have, more cars on the road. I could end up in a road traffic accident. It may mean that I'm less likely to bicycle, so I don't exercise as much. I might get a little pancha because I'm not moving so much. Or it may mean that my diet changes. Either I start to improve the way that I eat, or I eat worse. I drink more. And all of these things can affect how healthy I am, my nutritional status, my sense of well-being. And then these can lead to health issues such as alcoholism, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, obesity, respiratory problems, and injury or death. And these are the health problems that are the non-communicable diseases that are very long-term, very chronic, and very costly for both individuals and for the health system.